So good morning students, welcome back to next lecture in Java. Today we are going to discuss one more OOP concept called polymorphism. So we have many OOP concepts in Java. One of the OOP concept is polymorphism. So what is polymorphism? In today's class we are going to discuss what is polymorphism and how many types of polymorphism are there in Java, what is method overloading, what is method overriding, and some key points about method overloading and method overriding which is necessary for to crack the interviews. So all these topics we are going to discuss in today's lecture. So what is the first one? The first one is the definition, the plain definition of polymorphism. What is polymorphism? Usually we say that polymorphism means many forms, which the student gives the answer for this question is polymorphism means many forms. So what is the exact technical definition of polymorphism? Polymorphism means it's a OOP concept which we know already. It is one of the OOP concept which can be used to perform same action in different ways. Polymorphism is a OOP concept which can be used to perform same action but in different ways. So only we are telling it as polymorphism means many forms. So students, what is the definition of polymorphism? Polymorphism is one of the OOP concept which can be used to do the same action but in different ways. We'll see how we are going to do in different ways in the next couple of minutes later. So what is the next question? We know what is polymorphism. What is the next question? The next question is types of polymorphism. How many types of polymorphism are there? There are two types of polymorphism. How many types? There are two types of polymorphism are there. One is compile time polymorphism and another one is runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. We also call compile time polymorphism as static polymorphism or static method dispatch. We can also call compile time polymorphism as static polymorphism or static method dispatch. Similarly, the second type of polymorphism is runtime polymorphism, which we also call it as dynamic polymorphism or dynamic method dispatch. So this is one of the very important interview question. What is dynamic method dispatch? We'll discuss that in couple of minutes later. Okay, so what is polymorphism? Polymorphism means doing the same action in different ways. And how many types of polymorphism are there? There are two types of polymorphism. One is compile time polymorphism and another one is runtime polymorphism. So now compile time polymorphism we'll see what is compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Okay, before that the compile time polymorphism can be achieved by a concept called method overloading. Method overloading is a suitable concept to achieve compile time polymorphism. Similarly, the best example for runtime polymorphism is method overriding. Method overriding is the best example for runtime polymorphism, and method overloading is a best example for compile time polymorphism. So what is our next concept? Our next concept is method overloading. What is the next concept, students? The next concept is method overloading. We'll see what is method overloading and also we'll see what is method overriding with some examples also. Okay, so we'll see the first one is the method overloading. So what is method overloading? Before that, do you know what is a method? We already know what is a method and how to write a method in Java, no? So let's see what is the plain definition of method. What is method, students? A method can be defined as a set of instructions. A method can be defined as set of instructions which is used to accomplish a task. Which is used to accomplish a task. This is a definition of the method. It's a theoretical definition again. And how can we write a method in Java? We know what is the syntax. What is the syntax of writing a method? So what is the syntax of writing a method in Java? We'll be having a return type. We'll be having method name. And we'll be also having parameters. Parameters are optional, so only are specified within square brackets, and some set of instructions to accomplish our task. We'll be writing all those set of statements inside the function. So this is the syntax of writing a method. Okay, we know what is a method. What is a method? A method is a set of instructions which is used to perform a task or to complete a task. So how to write a method in Java? The syntax of writing a method in Java is this one. Return type followed by method name. Method name is user defined. We can write whatever we like. followed by parameters. Parameters are optional, so only I have specified within the square brackets. If I write anything within the square brackets, it is optional. Okay, open the flower bracket, write set of the statements which you like, and close the flower bracket. This is the way which we usually write in method in Java. Okay, so now we'll see what is method overloading. The next concept is method overloading. Method overloading, the definition I have given here. What is method overloading? This is the definition. If you observe, the definition is, if a class contains more than one method with the same method name but differs in two things. One is type of the parameters and the second one is either number of parameters. Either type of the parameters or number of parameters. Method overloading means if a class contains so many number of methods, the method name should be same, but what should be the difference? The difference should be either in the type of the parameters or in the number of parameters. Such kind of concept is called as method overloading. Once again, I am repeating the definition, which is very important for interviews also. Usually they'll ask what is a method overloading. Method overloading is nothing but if a class contains n number of methods of all the method names will be same. The method names are same, but what will be the different? They differs in either type of the parameters or number of parameters. Either, not both, either. Okay. They can be both also. Method names will be same, but they varies in either type of the parameters or number of parameters. Here the method names will be taking the same method names, but will be varying in the type of the parameters or in the number of parameters. We'll see how to write this with an example program so that you'll come to know, you'll get an idea. Okay. So let us take an example, not programmatical example but a theoretical example. Suppose I want to write a method called addition. I want to write a method called addition and I have taken the method name as addition here. Okay. So here I can either go for adding 2 numbers or adding 3 numbers. This is nothing but overloading a method. I have taken a method name as addition and the parameters for the first method I am passing 2 parameters and for the second method I am passing, the method name is same addition, but I am taking 3 parameters. So it is nothing but method overloading. Similarly, I can also go for something like this. I am taking the method name as addition. In the first method I am adding 2 integers and in the second method I am adding 2 real numbers. This is also an example of method overloading. This example is for type of parameters, number of parameters. There is a change in number of parameters. And this is type of parameters, change in type of the parameters. The method names are same, but in which I'm differing in either number of parameters or type of the parameters. That is called an example of method overloading. Okay. So all these methods needs to be present in a single class, not in different classes. That is the criteria, that is a condition, that is a constraint we have to remember here. If a class contains so many number of methods of which the method names are same, but they may differ in either type of the parameters or number of parameters. That's all. Okay. We'll see an example program now. So this is an example for method overloading, a Java example program I have taken. So I have written a class called demo. The class name is demo. Inside the class name, here I have opened it and here I have closed the class. Okay. So inside the class, I have written 3 instance methods. How many instance methods? 3 instance methods. Addition, 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 and 1 main method, public static void main method. Okay. So if you observe, the addition method, the three instance methods which I have written are method overloaded. Those methods are overloaded here. The method names are same, addition, addition and addition. The method names are same. Contains many methods with the same method name. The method names are same, but in what they are differing? In either type of the parameters or in the number of parameters. If you observe the first two methods, this one and this one, how many parameters are passed here? 2 parameters I have passed. In the second addition method, I have passed 3 parameters. I've passed 3 parameters here. So this is an example of method overloading. The same method name, but they are differing in number of parameters. Okay. If I observe this one and this one, these two methods, if I take these two methods are also having the same method name, but in which they are getting differ in the type of the parameters and also the number of parameters. How many number of parameters are there? 3. How many number of parameters are there? 2. And also they are differing in one more type also. What is that? The type of the parameters. Here the type is int and here the parameters type is float. This is an example of method overloading. If I take these two methods, in these two methods, the number of parameters are varying. If I take these two methods, the type of the parameters as well as the number of parameters are varying. If I take these two, this one and this one, in this, the type of the parameters are varying. This is the best example for method overloading. I have written all the methods inside a class only. I didn't distribute into other classes. Whenever you write, whenever you want to implement method overloading concept, all those methods needs to be present in a single class but not in different classes. Okay, that is a constant you need to remember here. And here I have written main method. Inside main method, what I have done, I have created an object here. Demo d is equals to new demo of. Now tell me, with the help of this object, I can call all these methods, isn't it? See, I have called all the 3 methods, d dot addition of, d dot addition of, d dot addition of. Let us take this statement first. D dot addition of 10, 20. So which method will get called here among these 3? Which method will get called? How many parameters are there? 2 parameters are there. What are the type of those parameters? Integer. So among these 3 methods, 2 parameters method is this one and this one, and the type of the parameter is int here. So this method will get called for this statement. This method will be called for this particular method call. Okay, this method. And coming to the next one, here how many parameters are there? 3 parameters. Among the 3 methods which I have written here, 3 parameterized method is this one. So this method will get called for this method. Okay. Similarly, if I see this one, d dot addition of 2.5, 3.5, then for this method will get invoked. So likewise, the method overloading will work here. So students, once again I am repeating few constants I am repeating here. All the methods which you want to write, that should be placed inside a single class. That is the first one. The method name should be same. The method name should be same. They should vary in either the type of the parameters or number of parameters or both. Both can also be applied here. Okay. Now tell me which method will be called, will be resolved. Here I have called 3 methods. 3 method names are same, but they are differing in the type of the parameters. Which method needs to be called for a particular method call will be resolved at compile time. Here if you observe, for this call, which method needs to be invoked will be resolved at which time? At the compile time only, but not at the runtime. So method overloading is the best example for compile time polymorphism. Once again I am repeating students, I have written 3 methods here, addition of, addition of, addition of. So which method, among these 3 methods, which method will be invoked for this, which method will be invoked for this, which method will be called for this, will be resolved at which time? At compile time only, because by seeing at the type of the parameters and number of parameters we can happily know it without seeing the object itself. By looking at this we can happily tell that which method is going to call. So only this is an example for compile time polymorphism. So the method overload, so only we are telling that method overloading is the best example for compile time polymorphism. Okay, understand students? So this is all about your method overloading. Fine. We will see few more constraints here. In this example, I have written all the 3 methods. All the 3 methods return type is void here. Okay, all the return types are void. What if I change it to int? For suppose I am changing the return type here. Int addition, void addition of, and also I am trying to change the parameters int a comma int b. If you observe the first method and the third method, in the first method the method name is same and the type of the parameters as well as number of parameters are same, but differing in what? Differing in return type. This is not an example for method overloading. This is not an example of method overloading. Listen carefully, students. If I change the return type and the rest of the signature is same, don't call that concept as a method overloading. Method overloading means the method name should be same. They should vary in either type of the parameters or number of parameters, but not in the return type. Though the return type changes or same, it won't matter in the method overloading. It matters only in the type of the parameters and number of parameters. So here I have changed the return type. That doesn't mean that this is an example of method overloading, which is incorrect. Okay. So this is a constraint you need to remember carefully. While you are giving the definition of method overloading or an example program of method overloading, though you write the different return types also, it won't be an example for method overloading. There should be a difference only in the number of parameters or type of the parameters, but not in the return types. Make a note of it. Okay. So students, the next concept is method overriding. We have done with what is polymorphism. What is polymorphism, students? Polymorphism is a OOP concept which can be used to perform same action in different ways. Okay. The type of polymorphism are two types. One is compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. The best example for compile time polymorphism is method overloading, and for runtime polymorphism the best example is method overriding. So now let us look what is method overriding now. Okay, so method overloading is a concept which revolves around a single class. In a single class we are going to write many methods which is of same method names but differs in type of the parameters or number of parameters. But in method overriding, the method overriding revolves around inheritance concept, superclass and subclass. We assume that there is a superclass and one subclass. In superclass we have written one method, and in the subclass also we are writing the same method signature, but may vary in the definition. That is called method overriding. Method overriding means if a subclass has same method signature as of like superclass, then it is called method overriding. Or else we can also give the definition in such a way that if a subclass have same method signature like in superclass but may differ in definition, that is called as method overriding. We are having a superclass and we are having a subclass. In superclass we have written a method, and in subclass also we are writing the same method, the same signature, but it may vary in the definition part. That we are calling it as a method overriding. Let us take an example for that. Let us take class A and class B. Class B is inheriting properties from A, single inheritance concept. Class A is containing a method called, let's take method is void m1 and it has some parameters. Okay, assume. And class B also has the same method signature. Signature means this one. The first statement in the method definition is known as a method signature. This is a method signature. If subclasses also have the same method signature, same without any difference, but it may vary in the definition part. Okay, then I can call M1 as a method overriding. M1 has been overridden in subclass. This concept is called as method overriding. Once again I am repeating. This concept, the method overriding concept, comes into picture with the concept of inheritance. Okay, there will be a superclass and there will be a subclass here. In superclass we will be writing a method. Whatever the method which you like, you write it, and in the subclass we are overriding it, meaning the same signature we are putting. Signature means the first statement we are calling it as a signature. This we are calling it as method signature. In the subclass also the method signature should be same as it is. There should not be any change in it. But there can be a change in that body. Inside the definition you can write whatever you like. Here one type of definition and here another type of definition, you can quote it. Okay. So this here I can call M1 as method overridden. M1 method has been overridden here. This is called method overriding. Okay. So this example will be looking with a complete code so that you will come to know what are all the things we can do here. Okay. We'll see an example program Java example program for method overriding. So what is method overriding? Here we have to take at least two classes. There should be relation between the classes, superclass and subclass. So what I'm going to take is I'm going to write a class A. A is a superclass here. I've taken A as a superclass. Inside this class, I have written one method called M1. Okay. System.out.println. It prints something, superclass. So M1 is a method in superclass. I'm closing it. That's all. And now I'm taking one more class called class B. Class B is extending class A, which is a single inheritance concept. I'm using a single inheritance concept here. Class B is extending class A. In class B is a subclass now. In class B, again I'm writing the same method signature, but I am varying it in the body. Inside I'm changing the definition. I'm writing subclass here. Okay. Now here in superclass, A is a superclass. A is a superclass and B is a subclass. There should be this relation when we speak method overriding. There should be a subclass and superclass relation. In that concept only the method overriding will come into picture. Okay. In superclass I have written one method. In subclass also the same method signature I have taken. This I am calling it as method signature. Okay, the same method signature needs to be present, but the body can be changed. Here I have changed the body. Here I have written system.out.println superclass. Here I have written subclass. The body may change. The body will usually change. Okay, if you write the same body, then what is the use of writing two same methods? So the body usually will get changed. This M1, now M1 is a method which is overridden. I can call this concept as method overriding. Okay, now let us write a main method in child class. String this. If I create an object for child class, B obj is equals to new B of, and if I try to call obj dot M1. If I try to call obj.m1, which M1 method will get called? Either this M1 method or this M1 method. See, class B is extending properties of class A. Okay, so this M1 method is also inherited by class B. Understand? So now class B is having two M1 methods. This M1 and also this M1. So now tell me which M1 method will get called? That is resolved. Which M1 method needs to be called will be resolved at runtime, not at compile time. So only we are calling it as runtime polymorphism. Which M1 method will be called here will be resolved at which time? At runtime. How we are going to resolve? Based on the object. Which class object is calling that method will be based on that object, that method will get called. Here obj is a object of which class? Class B. Class B's object. So usually the object will get created at runtime. So at runtime only we'll come to know which method will get called. Either this method or this method will be called, will be decided or known at the runtime when the object gets created. For which class I have created an object? For B class. So B class M1 method will get called. If I create an object for A class here, A obj1 is equals to new A. If I call obj1 dot M1, now this method will get called here. Based on the object, the method will get called. So when will the object will get created? The object will get created at runtime only. So only which method will get called will be resolved at runtime. So only this is a best example for runtime polymorphism. If you go back and recollect the method overloading. In method overloading, which method will be called at which time is decided not by the object but by the method name as well as number of parameters. So only we are calling that as a compile time polymorphism and this as a runtime polymorphism. The objects are getting created at runtime. With the help of the object only we can say which method will get called. If I create an object for class B and I call M1, then this method will get called. If I create an object for class A and if I call M1 with that object, then this method will get called. That is decided at runtime. So only we are calling this as a runtime polymorphism. So So if you observe, there are two types of polymorphism, compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism, best example for method overloading. Runtime polymorphism is best example for method overriding, because the methods, which method needs to be called will be decided at runtime, and which methods will be called will be decided at compile time here. So only these are the best examples for that. Okay students, so this is the high-level overview of method overloading and method overriding. Now we will see few key points about this method overriding and method overloading. So now we'll see some key points, important points about the method overloading and method overriding. Here I have given 4 key points. If you observe, we'll start with the last one. What is the last one? Final methods cannot be overridden. Final methods cannot be overridden. Till now we have seen the instance methods. M1, here M1 and here M1 are instance methods, isn't it? So if you observe the overloading example also, there also I've used instance methods only. If I want to go for static methods or final methods, how the behavior of this method overloading and method overriding will be, now we are going to see here. So here if I write this method as final, if I write a method as final, can I override this method in the subclass? Can I override this M1 in the subclass? No, I cannot override the final method. So final void M1, if I write something like this is not possible in Java. I cannot override the final methods. M1 is a final method here. So again I'm trying to override that method in the subclass, which is not possible in Java. That is one of the usage of the final keyword. We have seen this in when I discussed the final keyword. Now what are the major 3 uses of final keyword? One, to declare constants. The another one is to stop method overriding. The third one is to stop inheriting a class by another class. So if you make a class as final, then if you make a method as final, then that method cannot be overridden in subclass. So you have to remember that point. That is the last point. Final methods cannot be overridden. Coming to the second point, that is final methods can be overloaded. Let us take an example for the second point. Final methods can be overloaded. Let us take one class A. I'm speaking about method overloading now. Okay, method overloading will be in the revolves around a single class, not in between 2 classes. Okay, I'm taking a method here, that is void M1. Okay, I have written something, system.out.println, some message hi. Okay, again I have taken one more method M1 again. I'm changing some parameters here, and system.out.println, I'm trying to print a value here. I assume I have taken this as static method, and this is also a static method. Here what I have done, this is an example of method overloading. If you observe here, what is the method overloading definition? Method name should be same. The method name should be same. And what should it get differ? In the type of the parameters or number of parameters. Here number of parameters are 0. Here the number of parameters are 1. But these M1 is not a static methods, or not static methods, but M1 methods are not instance method, but those are static methods, and I have overloaded the static members here. If I write main method, system public static void main string some args, and if I try to call this without creating an object, I can directly call this, because these are static members. So if I call M1 and M1 of 10, I can call it, no? I can call M, because M1 are static methods. Static methods can be called directly without creating an object. So which method is called for this? For this function method call, this method is get invoked, and for this method call, this method gets invoked. There is no conflicts while calling the methods. So only static methods can be overloaded. Sorry, I'm discussing about the first one. The first one, static methods can be overloaded. Inside a class, I can go for overloading the static methods also. We don't have any problem in overloading the static methods also here. Now coming to the, so we have done with the first one and the last one. Okay, static methods can be overloaded. This is the example. And final methods cannot be overridden, because if I put final here, that method I cannot override in this. That is the key concept behind the final keyword. Now coming to the second usage, second key point, that is final methods can be overloaded. Instead of static here, if I try to write final, we'll see by putting final here. If I write final void, still it is correct only. The syntax wise it is correct only. Here I have written two final methods of same method name, but they vary in type of the parameter. This concept needs to be clear. This criteria needs to be met. That's all. Type of the parameters or number of parameters. That's all. The rest of whether it is a static members or final or whatever it is, but still the method overloading concepts will work. Okay. Here I have taken M1, both methods as M1, but those are final methods. If I try to call by creating an object, I have to create an object here. Without an object, I cannot call these methods because these are instance methods again. Okay, a obj is equals to new a of. If I try to call with object obj.m1, obj.m1, as if you are calling some final methods. That's all. By using an object, you will be calling any final method. No, in the same way, I can call like this also. Is this for this call, for this statement, this method will get invoked, and for this call, this method will get invoked. Do we have any problems here while invoking the methods? Do you have any conflicts while invoking the methods? No, right? We can happily invoke those methods. M1 of means this one will get called. M1 of 10 means this one will get called. So final methods can also be overloaded. Static methods can be overloaded as well as final methods can also be overloaded, and final methods cannot be overridden. Okay, now coming to the third point, that is static methods can be overridden but of no use. We can go for overriding the static methods, but of what purpose? Of no use. We'll see that with an example program now. Okay, now let us see. Instead of final, if I put static here, okay, and here also if I put static. Static means it's one per class. It's not through an object we are accessing. It is through the class name we are trying to access it. Okay. So if I write something like this, this is also possible. If I write public static void main here, public static void main, and if I try to access, how can I access this M1 and this M1? Again through the class names. No. What is the class name? A dot M1 and B dot M1. There is no problem while calling. We don't have any conflicts while calling. A means this class. We are referring to this class. So this is resolving at runtime. Sorry, compile time, not at runtime. So method overriding. Static methods can be overridden, but of no use because we are calling with the class names. Class names will be resolved at compile time rather than at runtime. But method overriding is the best suitable concept for runtime polymorphism. So only we usually say that we can override the static methods, that it won't throw any sort of errors, but of what use? It won't give any clarity on method overriding concept here. So only we usually don't override the static methods. Okay, we don't use that concept for overriding static methods. So these are the four key points which you need to remember for not for exam point of view, but for interview purpose. If anyone asks, can I override final methods? No, I cannot override the final methods. This is the point. It will come into picture. Can I overload static methods and final methods? Yes, we can overload both static methods, final methods as well as instance methods. Coming to the static methods overridden, we can override but of no use. That concept will be little deviating. So only we usually won't override the static methods. So students, that's all for today. That is all about your polymorphism concept. So we have learned many concepts in today's class. What are those concepts, students? The first one is we have known what is polymorphism. The definition of polymorphism we have seen, and how many types of polymorphism we have seen. Those are compile time and runtime polymorphism. So what is compile time polymorphism? Compile time polymorphism means which method will be invoked, will be decided at runtime or compile time. That is called compile time or runtime polymorphism. If a method call is resolved at compile time, it is called compile time polymorphism. If a method call is resolved at runtime, then it is called runtime polymorphism. The best example for compile time is method overloading. Best example for runtime is method overriding. And we have seen few key points of this method overriding and method overloading also. Okay, and we have seen some examples also on this method overloading and method overriding. So I'll come up with some other concept in next class. Till then, signing off. Thank you.